would you mind if I ask what form of addiction was it that you were struggling with?
Yeah, I mean, for me, addiction's a generalised kind of disease. There was no specific substance, there was no specific addiction for me. It was, for me, I believe addiction is a disease that centres in my mind that I was born with. So the way that manifests is through behaviours, and that started with me really early on. My disease was present way before I picked up any substances. I had obsession and compulsion around food and behaviours around that, restricting food because I was so self-centred, so fearful, so self-conscious and insecure about who I was as a person that I couldn't handle feeling feelings and being myself, and I didn't know how to do that. So my addiction started with food, constricting, restricting that, and trying to change the way I felt about myself through control of food. It just so happened that when I picked up substances at an early age, I was off and running and I couldn't stop because it changed the way I felt about myself. And for a long time, I couldn't do that without the use of a substance. Once I started, I couldn't stop. There were specific drugs that took me into rehab, heroin and crack cocaine mostly, but yeah, I believe that I suffer with a disease that is fueled by obsession and compulsion and driven by fear and insecurities and self-centeredness and self-obsession.
And how did that impact on you in terms of your family, your friends, your work life, your career, and just sort of you as a person in general, your life as a whole? So
it impacted my family and friends a lot. That's probably, they're probably the people I harmed the most in my addiction. Stealing from them, the emotional trauma that I caused them through harming myself, the worry I caused. I was just completely misguided in what I believed and the way I was acting when I was in active addiction. Prior to that, I was so young. I picked up substances at 11, so I was so young that I don't really remember how I acted before. I don't really remember how it impacted on them. I know I was making myself quite unwell mentally before I picked up substances, but I don't really know how it impacted them when I was that young.
And how did you go about choosing Broadway Lodge as the place for you to go and get some help?
So I've been to Broadway twice.
Okay.
The first time was for a detox only. I couldn't get funding for rehabilitation. And I was placed there by the drug service that funded me for a detox. Once I'd been and I'd left, I knew I needed to go back.
Right.
So finding that placement for rehab, there was no question about it. I'd had a taste of what Broadway Lodge could offer me, and I wanted to go back there. I'd seen what they could do for other people, and I'd seen what they could have done for me if I'd been there for a longer period of time rather than just a 2-week detox. And there was no question that I wanted to get back there for my rehab.
And you touched upon the detox there that you had the first time around. How did you cope with the detox and the therapy processes that they offer?
The physical detox itself I didn't cope with at all well. They did so much to try and help me through it mentally and physically. Withdrawing from heroin and opiates is quite physically painful. It's quite physically traumatic, or I found it was anyway. But they do a lot of therapies there. They don't, they try and help you in ways that isn't just through medication. So it was easier than expected. They kept me very busy. They gave me massages. They gave me Reiki, acupuncture.
And was that to help with the pain? Or?
Yeah, so to help with the physical symptoms of withdrawing from opiates, yeah. And to try and help me sleep and to help me mentally through that detox. So they did so much to try and help through that process, but I found it really difficult. Mentally, that was the first time in 18 years that all substances had been taken away from me, and I didn't know how to, feel the feelings that had come back, that I was masking for so long in my using. So, the support there emotionally as well was amazing. It was second to none, and that's why I knew I wanted to go back there for rehab.
And what did you think about the 12 Steps programme? Did that help with your recovery? Did it help with your emotions and dealing with everything that was coming back to you once you'd withdrawn from the substances?
Yeah, I loved it. Like I'm the 12-step, the 12-step program of abstinence, derived from Alcoholics Anonymous, for me is something that now I'm completely passionate about. I absolutely love it, and for me that is the only way to recover from not only substance misuse but from the disease of addiction itself. It's all that has ever worked for me, and being introduced to that by Broadway Lodge essentially is what I believe has allowed me to continue to abstain from using substances, because Broadway Lodge allowed me to get clean, and that 12-step program that they introduced me to for the first time in my life is what's kept me clean now. It's allowed me to accept myself for who I am, it's allowed me to see me for what I am, and it's allowed me to change then, make amends, and continue to grow as a better person. The 12 steps doesn't just keep you clean, it brings me into, for me, it's brought me into recovery. I'm not abstinent, I'm living clean today. And emotionally, spiritually and physically, the 12 steps have saved my life.
How do you feel about the level of support, the volunteers, the staff, everybody that's connected to Broadway Lodge that's helped you on your journey?
It's incredible. I mean, from every step of the way, from before I even got there through the assessments to get into Broadway Lodge, there was massive support. They were completely connected with me. Everyone from the reception staff to the admin to the support workers, the counsellors, they all go that extra mile. They understand you, and actually what they have is endless amounts of empathy. That they're not flooding you with sympathy and trying to rescue you. They have that understanding, that empathy, and what they want to do is help and support you along your journey rather than just, try and save you. And it allows me to take responsibility, or it allowed me to take responsibility for my recovery, which outside of Broadway Lodge I've continued to do. So being in there, rather than them holding your hand the whole way, they open the door and allow you to take that take that step through and work on yourself. They're incredible. I've had a lot of therapy outside of rehab before. I've had a lot of counselling outside rehab before, and I've never experienced the kind of knowledge, understanding and support that team has. It's incredible.
And what's life been like for you since leaving Broadway Lodge?
Amazing. I mean, I'm 5 months out of Broadway Lodge. I'm 7 months clean next week, and for me, that's the longest period I've ever had in 18 years of abstinence from substances. Okay. So for a start, Broadway Lodge got me clean. They showed me and suggested to me what I need to do after I get out of treatment to keep myself clean. And for me, I'm able to live life. I'm able to manage my life on its own terms, and it's allowed me to have humility, be a human being, and actually just accept what my life is going to be. And for me, to be able to come out, manage my own life, take responsibility not only for my recovery but for everything outside of that also, is just incredible. I'm recovering from the disease of addiction, but I'm also recovering from, being this little child that didn't know how to live. I was using for so long that I never grew up, and I feel like I'm becoming, an adult living life on life's terms like everyone else seems to be able to do, but I couldn't grasp that, so my life's changed a lot. I've got plans for the future now, which Broadway Lodge helped me through an aftercare program. Externally, not much has changed, but internally, for me, is where the biggest change has been. I'm okay with the person I am today, and that allows me to try and live my life.
Finally, what would you say to all the staff and the volunteers, everyone connected with Broadway Lodge that's helped you? What would you like to say to them? I'm
just endlessly grateful. To go to that rehab twice in 1 year, have that opportunity, and to be alive today, they played a massive part in that. So thank you. I'm endlessly grateful.